Hello and welcome to another episode of Two Guys and a Chainsaw. I'm Todd.
And I'm Craig.
Well, I wanted to take us back to another 80s horror movie, you know, this sweet spot in the early 80s between 81 and 82. We did a whole theme month, I think, on 82 horror, but there was still so much that we haven't covered yet that I just keep pulling out of the ether. Just when I think I've covered most of the weird kind of obscure things from 1982, I'll be on Tubi and I'll be like, oh my God, there's like 5 more things here, all of which I've never heard of before, and most of which look at least a little intriguing. And I'm kind of a completionist in this way. I love seeing what's going on at this time period. And we just covered one a couple weeks ago. I wanted to keep going with this theme. And so I found this movie called The Slayer from 1982. It was, I don't know, it was somehow in my list somewhere that kind of wanted to get to. I don't remember what I originally read about it. Nothing special. Just thought we'd go in blind and see how this turned out. And here we are. First time I had seen it, but it is available on Tubi. How about you, Craig? Had you seen this before or heard of it?
No, I'd never seen of it or heard of it. And, you know, we don't get paid by them. Tubi, if you're listening, you could give us, you know, a shout out. But seriously, like, really of all of the streaming services, I find that its catalog is kind of the most diverse, and they've got things coming and going all the time. You can almost always find, and to be fair, a lot of times you have to wade through to be fair, a lot of times you have to wade through a lot of crap. Like,
oh yeah,
I can't tell you how many times, but that's usually newer stuff, like lower budget new stuff that I put on, and I can tell in the first 5 minutes, I'm like,
yes,
this was shot on an iPhone. The acting is already terrible. I'm not even gonna give it a try. But this older stuff, you will find some interesting stuff in there, some gems. And I don't know if I would classify this as a gem, but it's interesting.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be interesting to talk about.
It's going to be really fun to talk about. It's directed by this guy named J.S. Cordone or Cordone. I don't know how you pronounce those names. And he's done a handful of genre films, about 20 or so, all kind of like this, little horror, little thriller stuff, mostly either for TV or for straight to video, it seems like. This one obviously did come out in the theater before it went to video.
The only thing that I recognized on his list was he did the Prom Night remake.
Yeah. Have you seen that?
Yeah, and I remember next to nothing about it, which is never a good sign. I mean, it was very typical of those 2000 slashers. Nothing to write home about.
Well, this one in a way is very typical of these early 80s slashers. You know, we've done things like The Mutilator and the one that we did a couple weeks ago. These are shot in the U.S., so this is not a Canadian one. In fact, this one was shot down in Georgia. And as we were watching this, I thought, God, these locations look so familiar to me. And I'm trying to figure out, is it just because most of these movies take place in the same few settings? Or is it because these are the actual locations I've seen other movies in? And so I did a bit of a deep dive to figure out where this was shot. And it was shot on Tybee Island in Georgia. And indeed, we've seen a couple films that were shot on this island.
Oh, really?
Yeah, one of which was, well, The Menu. You remember The Menu? That's a newer one.
Oh, yeah.
That was shot there. At least production got moved there about halfway through. But the other one we saw that was shot there was The Beach House. Remember that one?
Oh, yeah.
Baywatch has been shot there. Some Cobra Kai episodes have been shot there. And then it's home to a couple forts. There's a Fort Screven, which is from like the Spanish-American War, and there's a Fort Pulaski, which is more Civil War era. And I pulled up because there's a point in here where they walk through these ruins of, you know, early on in the movie, and I thought, God, I mean, what are those? We never see them again. That's got to be some location thing.
I know.
And I think those might be the ruins from Fort Screven. But while I was looking up Fort Screven, I found this Fort Pulaski that's also on that island, which is more brick walls and things like that. Again, it's Civil War era. And that is where Abraham Lincoln versus Zombies was filmed.
Oh.
And I tell you, you pull up those pictures and you'll be like, oh, yeah, clearly.
Right.
And it's been the site of a lot of these things, too. And there's a theater in this movie, an abandoned, bombed out looking old theater that now has been completely restored and renovated and is a very active theater. In fact, in the movie, it's clearly just sitting kind of by itself in the middle of nowhere on what maybe was an old main street or something of this island. But I think the island since the early 80s has really undergone some,
Oh, yeah.
renovations and stuff. And now it looks beautiful. And that whole area, like there's buildings around it, and it's clearly on like a street, and there's a lot of activity around that theater and stuff. So it's really neat to see, how these old set locations, either they stay the same, they get raised, or in this case, just really built up. It was fun because that theater is kind of a bit of a set piece toward the end of the movie. And
yeah, well, and the whole island really serves as a really cool set piece. I mean, you talked about them walking through that fort at the very beginning, and it looks really cool. And
yeah,
it's obviously, it's clearly an actual location. And I feel like that's what they were doing. Like, as soon as they arrive on the island, and we'll backtrack a little bit here in a second, but as soon as these characters arrive on the island, they have to trek like all the way across it to get to where they're actually staying. And I think that they just did that to take advantage of the location.
yeah.
Why would you not film on that location? Frankly, I question why they never went back there. I thought surely they would go back. Surely there would be some sort of climactic chase or scene or something there,
Right.
and they never really do. That theater that you said, it's like a rundown theater. And when I say like uninhabited, it's a shell of a theater basically.
Yeah.
But it is cool looking, and you can totally tell it's practical. And yeah, when you say, you said it must have developed some since the 80s. Well, yeah, I think that when they shot there, it was pretty much abandoned. I mean, very almost uninhabited. And now I think, like, you said the beach house was filmed there. That was a whole community of fancy beach houses. And like you said, they have renovated that theater. And at some point, I don't know if it was for an anniversary or a celebration of the 4K release or something, they did a screening of this movie there for the locals.
Oh,
And apparently some of the locals remembered when the cast and crew came through and all that stuff. So,
that's
yeah,
so
I mean,
cool.
that's one of the cool things about it. I mean, it's shot on a really cool location. It's on an island, so you get lots of beach footage, and the house that they end up staying in is really cool. I'm not sure. I didn't read anything. I would have kind of a difficult time believing that the exterior and the interior really went together.
Yeah.
Only because the exterior looks a little bit run down, not nearly as much as the theater. Maybe still inhabitable, but by the time they get inside, it's super, super nice.
Yeah.
I don't know if they filmed those on sets or what, but
I'm not
yeah,
sure.
the setting itself is, a big perk for the film as a whole.
And it's a little nostalgic too, because so many of these movies, whether they take place in the woods, on a summer camp, or here on the beach, you get inside these homes and they almost all look the same, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
Wood panels, 70s era homes with, a couple floors in them and a big living room and an odd kitchen in the back and often like a patio out front. I mean, this is the template for the house that the slashers happen in.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking about the Mutilator because of the setting. I think when we did the Mutilator, we were talking about how unusual it seemed to have this setting that normally is like a summer camp or it's in the woods. Instead, it's a cabin on the beach.
Mm-hmm.
And the Mutilator came out 2 years after this movie. So actually, this one precedes it. I don't know what other cabin on the beach movie there were. I get Bay of Blood, that Italian movie from way back that precedes all of this. And sort of the prototypical slasher. But yeah, I liked the setting. I thought the setting was almost as much a character as everything else. And it really fit in with the dreamy, drama-y nature of all of this. So much more you can do with the water and the ocean and the horizon and the beach and all the, I don't want to get too deep in here, but like, just all these imagery of the beach and the sand and ever-shifting patterns and high tide and low tide and all that, I think really helps play into the themes that they're going for, which I think are actually kind of ambitious. I feel like this movie, ultimately, I found it kind of plodding and mostly boring and slow.
Yes.
But I think they were aiming for something that they just didn't quite hit.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. It just seemed like every scene that wasn't a like suspenseful kill scene just went on like 3 or 4 beats too long.
Yeah.
Why am I still watching this? Like, anyway, you had talked about how it really kind of is one of those standard slashers of the era, and it is almost to a frustrating amount for me because I feel like the filmmakers were attempting something different and it just didn't actually ever get realized. More or less, in terms of the way that it's shot and the way that it looks and the way that the villain or killer or whatever is shown to us, it could be any slasher movie. It could be Mutilator. It could be I Know What You Did Last Summer. It could be, any typical slasher. But I feel like he tried to weave into the story this surreal, dreamlike, potentially supernatural element that I wish they would have leaned heavier into before the last 2 seconds.
Yeah.
or before the last 5 minutes. And maybe that had something to do with, I don't know, budget. I know that the studio that made this, I think that they were already done filming when the studio that made this went bankrupt, and they just kind of put together what they had. Like I read that when it initially came out, it hadn't even been color corrected. Like a lot of the scenes were in pitch black because they hadn't really done anything with them. I'm assuming that the one that we saw was the 4K transfer, because I didn't find that to be the case. I felt like even in the dark scenes, I could pretty much tell what was going on.
Honestly, I thought it was really well lit and really beautifully shot, honestly. But yeah, I suppose that if we had seen this on VHS,
right,
20, 30 years ago, it would have been very different picture for.
Yeah, and I feel like the movie is a little bit not ahead of its time, but it's a part of that transition from those typical slashers to something a little bit more heady. Now, specifically, you could easily draw major connections to A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh my God.
Because
yeah. I feel like there is a world that exists where potentially Wes Craven saw this movie as he was, thinking about his Freddy character. And I mean, it was only 2 years after this came out that Nightmare on Elm Street came out. It certainly seems thematically to be coming up upon that idea. Just like you said, if they had developed it a little bit more, it would look very, very similar to Freddy.
Yeah, I mean, without giving too much away, the main girl has nightmares and is convinced that something, she doesn't know what, but something in her nightmares can do bad things. And so she attempts to stay awake and, tries to warn everybody. And all. There are tons of direct parallels. I mean, it's ultimately different, I suppose, but I feel like A Nightmare on Elm Street takes this concept and nails it.
Crystallizes it, really. Yeah. Crystallizes it into something you can hold and you can see and you can identify. Whereas this keeps things very nebulous.
Yeah.
And even with the ending as well, it's just kind of a big WTF moment, which apparently wasn't part of the original script. Apparently the ending that we see was shot after photography had ended. They decided they wanted to change the ending, which just serves to confuse it all a little bit, but also adds an interesting element to the whole movie that makes it, again, I think they were going for something a little headier here, but by the end of it, none of it quite landed as hard as it should have. Whereas you take Freddy is the embodiment of what these guys are kind of hinting at.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know if it was the director or the writer, I don't know, but I read that they wanted to keep it a little bit more nebulous.
Intentionally.
The studio, I get it, from a studio perspective, they wanted to see something. And they wanted the audience to see something. And so I guess they kind of compromised. And I think that in the compromise, it just muddies things go one way all the way or go all the way the other way. That kind of compromise just kind of...
It leaves it a little unsatisfying.
It doesn't really work. Yeah, right.
Well, we should just dive into it then from the beginning, because it actually starts out. It's almost bookended in a way. It starts out with this beautiful music. And again, this is something I really like about this year. It feels like 81, 82. We were still getting these orchestral scores, some of which are really better than the movie itself in many cases.
Right.
Just like, how did the movie deserve this gorgeous score? And this was sort of the last couple years of that, because shortly after this, everything goes to synth. And then synth becomes the language of 80s slashers and 80s horror in general. And this is kind of the tail end of that with but we get this beautiful orchestral score. We got this ticking clock, this dramatic music, this superimposed image of this woman who who looks to be staring off into space and troubled by something as she walks towards a doorway that's open a crack, and the light from the doorway shining on her face. But then, like, another doorway seems to blast open, and there's clearly some kind of demonic figure in shadow that is standing there with the wind blowing behind it and the light streaming in from behind it. And then we're back at her face and she seems terrified, but then cuts back and we're just seeing her again looking through just this normal doorway, like she's in the basement trying to get out, or she's looking into a basement, wondering what's down there. Tons of questions. And then from behind her, these hands come around and grab her across the face and the throat.
Monstrous hands. Yeah.
Big, monstrous, like demonic hands with long fingernails and hairy and long fingers. And again, what you said earlier about things going on just a beat or two too long, this is all really impressive. There's a little blood trickling down from behind it and everything until the last 2 seconds of the final shot when you can clearly see a male arm. Like these hands are just gloves. Did you catch that?
No.
It's 2 seconds, but if you're paying attention, as he pulls her into the shadows, it's more of a medium shot. And God, they really fucked that up. And I was like, oh, this is the kind of movie we're getting into. And of course, the woman is dreaming. So she springs up out of bed and we see that she's in this beautiful 80s style, I would almost say fancy bedroom. And she's talking to her boyfriend. She's had this nightmare again. But the shots don't match up. The shot of her sitting there, kind of looking off to the side of the bed, doesn't match up with the shots towards him, which are straight up onto his face. Like he's looking straight down, like he's over her. And the room isn't that same room at all.
I didn't even notice.
It looks like a cabin. The wood paneling, there's a skylight behind him. There's some bookshelf way up high by the ceiling. And then it flips back and she's in this room with these white walls and, pink frilly things and stuff like that. I was like, oh my God, this is the kind of movie we're getting into. Just when things like this so easily slip by, you know what happened, right? Oh, they've screwed up that shot. They had to go back and reshoot it, but they couldn't get the location again, or they just had to shoot it quickly. So then they stuck in this other one, right?
Uh-huh.
However, I now think that might have actually been a little intentional. Now, maybe they didn't mean for us to notice that the two shots didn't match, but the way that he's standing and behind him is this skylight kind of up in the ceiling with an opening and everything, it seems to foreshadow his ultimate death that comes later on.
I hadn't thought of that, but you're right.
So I don't know if that was even more clever for its own good, like they really tried to do this kind of psychological trick on us, but they certainly intentionally tried to foreshadow this because there are a couple other instances later, pretty much each of the characters who die, and there are only 3 who die.
There are really only kind of 4 in the whole movie.
Yeah. There's technically a 4th guy who dies, but 3 of this group of 4 who die, which is disappointing, by the way. All of their deaths are foreshadowed by something that happens a little earlier. And that's a nice little touch. That's why I say they were aiming for something artistic here.
I like that, particularly when it's subtle and you're more likely to pick up on it the second time around. And I think that this falls into that category. It's not so obvious.
No, not at all.
And I guess she's a painter and she is stressing out or something because she's got a big show coming up. And so her boyfriend, husband, I don't know, David, thinks she needs vacation. So they're going to go on vacation to this island with her brother, Eric, and his wife, Brooke.
Mm-hmm.
And they all fly out onto this island like in a Cessna, like in a little seaplane. Their pilot is Mr. Marsh, who, for all intents and purposes, is the creepy gas station guy.
Yeah,
of the movie.
He really is.
He even comes... he's creepy gas station guy in this moment because Kay gets out and she's throughout my notes I'm like, Kay's acting weird again. She's always acting weird.
Oh yeah, she's off on another planet. Yeah,
the whole time. There's not a scene in the movie where she's normal and fun. She is just always space cadet out there all the time. She gets off the plane. She's like,
I feel like I've been here before.
You ain't the first I heard say that, and you won't be the last. This island is the kind of place folks dream about.
Said in a very dour, straight face that just looks pissed. They even comment on how creepy he is, right? And when they look, as they're talking about how creepy he is, He's right there in the background in the window of the plane, like looking back and being creepy.
Staring at them. Yeah. God.
It's so great.
Yeah. And then they walk through that stone fort, which is really cool. I mean, it looks like at one point it was probably big and fortified, but it looks like it's crumbled and all the big blocks of it are kind of just sticking up out of the ground. It's a really cool set piece that they don't come back to. And then they pass that old dilapidated theater that we mentioned before, but of course Kay has to stand and look at it like a weirdo, and David comes up to her and she's like, I recognize this building. From where? From my painting. I painted it. He's like, no, you just painted a building that looks like it. Like, get over it. He's very dismissive of her throughout.
He
is interesting in that, like, I can understand it, except for the fact that she's always so weird. Like, there's clearly something going on with her. Like, come on.
He should be more concerned.
For sure.
Well, she's been having dreams and she's been taking pills apparently and all that. So, I mean, this could be a fairly new occurrence and whatnot. But
I suppose.
Yeah. As they're walking, by the way, you know, they're walking past that old theater, as you said. And there's this one point where Brooke, as they're coming over the crest of a hill, goes, oh, I'm dying, Eric. I don't think I'm going to make it. And Eric goes, well, we just passed this boathouse, so we're almost there. That also foreshadows her eventual death, which I thought was kind of cute as well.
Yeah, no, I never would have caught those things, but it's true.
Yeah,
I guess it would have been right about where they were. Yeah, that's funny. And then they get to this big seaside home, and Brooke is a little irritated because it looks dilapidated from the outside, but when they get inside, it's gorgeous. Not only is it a beautiful home, but it's pristine and clean.
And
the
chock
kitchen
full
is
of good,
fully stocked.
Yeah, you open that fridge, you can't even put anything new in it. It's totally
I know
full.
There's fresh fruit in there. Like, I don't know who stocked all this for him. The liquor cabinets stocked.
Yeah.
It looks like they could have a nice place. But
this is like Airbnb before Airbnb.
Right. But of course, Kay's acting weird and notices some clock on the mantelpiece, which is a clock from the opening dream that we didn't mention before.
Mm-hmm.
And then creepy Marsh, I guess, came back to give the whole creepy gas station attendant monologue.
Yes.
Like,
I came back to warn you.
Warn us about what?
Well, the report from the Coast Guard says there's a storm moving up from the Gulf. They're real unpredictable this time of year.
Weather looks okay to me.
Things ain't always what they appear to be. I used to live on this island, know what a storm can do. It'll come at you from all sides. Make it impossible for me to land a plane.
Well, I think we'll take our chances.
Suit yourself. Don't say I didn't warn you.
We've also learned, by the way, that there is no phone service on the island. I think he told them that as well, or somebody else did earlier.
Right.
So, you know, they're like, okay, thank you, goodbye, and he leaves. So our setup, holiday on an island cabin, isolated island, supposedly nobody else is around on the island, no phone service, and there's going to be a big storm, so the plane's not going to be able to come over and get them. Very, very typical.
Yeah, but it's a little atypical in that it's not just a bunch of 20-something assholes.
Yes.
I mean, these are two, not mature, they're probably in their 30s, maybe early 30s, mid 30s, I would guess, but it's two married couples, which is a completely different dynamic. And they're friends and family. Eric and Kay are brother and sister. So
yeah, that was refreshing.
It's a little bit different. It is refreshing.
I actually wrote that down. It's nice to see a slasher that's like adults instead of teenagers that are actually adults playing teenagers.
Right. And I like those movies too. And I like, it's cathartic to see young, sexy assholes get chopped up. I like that every once in a while. But...
as a teacher?
But this was different, and I appreciated that.
Yeah.
So then we get, I guess, the first kill. Is that right? And it's just some rando. That's my biggest complaint about this, is that though these kills aren't entirely, it's not that they aren't interesting or unique in some way, but just the way that they're executed in terms of the way that the killer is presented is so typical. Like, it's just, a shadowy figure. We typically really only see the shadow of the figure. I don't think we often even see the person or thing itself.
No, or hands or anything.
No, it's just we see shadows creeping up and we see their POV, and then we see the murder happen up close, but there's really no indication of motive or any suggestion of who this entity might be.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's somewhat of a weakness. That left me frustrated. And even if I don't know. I mean, I guess they kind of try to start to explain it later on. But this guy, basically, Wally the fisherman, who we've never seen before and we'll never see again because he dies, he's just sitting there gutting his fish.
Talking to himself.
And he's like, oh, Wally, you're hearing things that aren't there, and before you know it, you'll be seeing things that aren't there. And then his shadow sneaks up behind him, hits him over the head with an oar, and the end. He's dead.
Yeah. I love that he says, what you need is a companion, a woman, or maybe just a dog.
And then he like smiles and nods to himself.
Yeah.
Probably a dog.
Maybe in a movie with a bigger budget, Wally would have been a character established with a dog. Think about that. I was thinking of Piranha, right? Wasn't that guy with that dog in Piranha? Yeah. Typical character, but but this is clearly just inserted to give us something.
Yeah.
Anything. And I wouldn't be surprised if this wasn't originally in the script and some producer was watching the movie and was like, guys, we've got to throw this in there.
Well, it's a good thing they did because nothing else happens for a long time.
Yes.
Like there's a completely unnecessary beach scene where Kay is acting weird.
Mm-hmm.
Then Kay and Brooke have a conversation in the kitchen while they're cooking dinner that I don't think anything came of.
No.
And then
Eric's been getting a flare gun from the basement. He just casually tosses off, this place has an elevator? Huh.
Right.
I'm still curious about the elevator. I mean,
I have no idea what was going on.
We do see the bottom of an elevator, but I have no idea where it goes to. Second floor, third floor, presumably?
I don't know.
I don't know. It was weird.
I don't know. And so then they have their dinner that the women prepared outdoors at night, right? And this is when they have a conversation, but like, basically, Eric tells Kay that her new painting style sucks.
Yeah.
That it's too surreal. And she's like, I paint what I see. And David's like, she paints what she dreams. And I'm like, who cares? Like, she paints like landscapes. Like, who cares?
She can paint whatever the hell she wants from wherever she gets inspiration.
Well, I guess Eric is saying, basically what he says is, you were on a really good streak just painting these boring landscapes, and now you're getting all surreal and shit, and people don't want to buy your stuff and like shape up. And the fact that he's like, if this was just a friend, like if this was just her girlfriend's friend, I would think, what an asshole, keep it to yourself. But it is her brother. I think you get a little bit of license as siblings to be a little bit more upfront with people.
Yeah, it's true. Everyone's just privately fretting over her. Even the other couple, Eric and Brooke, when they're alone in bed, they're talking about her. And Kay tells Eric that she's scared her dreams will take over real life.
Right.
All of this is really ham-fisted. I mean, we get it. We've gotten it. Kay is melodramatically distant and troubled. Everybody's troubled for her, and all they're talking about is her dreams and how her artwork's even gotten bad now that she's dreaming. When she says she's scared the dreams are going to take over her real life, the response is, oh, it's just one of those demons that surface every once in a while. We all have them. And I'm thinking, okay, there's a pointed line right there.
Yeah.
Because we've seen a demon.
Yeah, but kind of.
The vision of a demon in the beginning.
Right. But David kind of, I mean, in saying that, basically what he's saying to her is he thinks that she's you're losing it. Pull it together.
Yeah.
But that doesn't stop them then from going to their sex den and banging.
Yeah, for quite a while. This is really, again, a little too long.
Yeah, way too long, especially since it was not really a sex scene. It was like there are so many shots of her just laying on her back in this bed with like her hair sprawled out on the pillow, sometimes like one arm or both arms above her head in like this, gothic painting type way. And here, like they're laying in the bed and it's all lit by firelight and stuff. And it's supposed to be, I think, like this intimate, sexy scene. And it almost looks like he's just molesting her corpse. Like he's just kind of
I was trying to figure out.
rubbing his face all over her face.
I couldn't figure out what he was kissing.
It wasn't her mouth.
It wasn't her boobs. I mean, he wasn't down far enough. Or like, I just didn't know what was going on here, except he's just rubbing his face all over her. Yeah.
And he wasn't on top of her. Like he was like snuggled up next to her. Like I guess he could have been grinding on her thigh or something, which that's fine. Good time, but
it just wasn't very well directed.
Right. And it went on for so long. Cut away. We don't need to see that.
No, but it's very soap opera like, isn't it?
It is. A lot of it. A lot of the whole movie, it feels like a soap opera, really.
Storms and the windows, rain's going against the window, and we get a shot through the window from the outside. And I thought for a minute, oh, this is like our killer POV. No, they just got to show this from a sixth angle, this same boring sex scene.
Right. There's also a lot of really close shots on faces and reactions and in dialogue scenes and stuff, and that felt very soap opera too.
Yeah.
But after they bang, David hears a bump in the night, and for about the next 10 minutes, he wanders around the house.
Oh
my God.
Forever.
He finally
Takes forever.
He finally ends up, I guess, in the cellar. I don't know. And I didn't even really understand what was happening here.
No, I didn't either.
It seemed to me like it was a cellar door, like one that opens from the outside and the two doors open and you walk down the stairs into the cellar, except he's in the cellar, so he's opening it from the inside, so he's opening it up. And it seemed like it was like kind of partially ajar, so the water was leaking in and that was making noise. So he pulled it back down and closed it. But after he turns his back, he hears a loud noise and he turns around and one of the doors is open again. So he goes and sticks his head up in there, doesn't see anything. But then as he's pulling back down, the door closes so that it clamps his neck right between. And he's standing on a ladder, but in the commotion, the ladder tips over. And so he's just dangling there. And it's like cutting into his neck and his eyeballs are bleeding and stuff. He dies. And then something or somebody pulls his body back up. Now, later on, when they go looking for him, she talks about looking for him at the elevator. Was that the elevator?
I think it's supposed to be the elevator.
What the kind of elevator is that?
I have no idea. I honestly, I'm still trying to figure that out. How would that trap door? Is it the top of the
freight elevator or something? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It was weird. I think this is supposed to be an open elevator shaft. It's not very well established. And then for the rest of the movie, when he said, oh, there's even an elevator in here, I thought, okay, cool. We're going to get that's going to be some kind of factor. At least we're going to get a scene at the elevator. I mean, this is interesting. There's this house on the beach, but it's got an elevator that presumably goes through 3 floors. That's escape routes. You could fall down the shaft. That's, board up the elevator, But this is it. This is apparently the elevator. Just this moment in this place, because then later they get up and he's missing, and for a while they don't give a shit.
No.
Kay wakes up to a bad dream.
Yeah, except that's gross too, because we don't know it's a dream at first. She wakes up and she kind of turns over and it looks like David's in bed with her, except for his face looks kind of gnarly, like dead.
Mm-hmm.
And then she rolls over and starts kissing him and his eyes open, but then blood starts flowing out of his eyes and she notices blood on her mouth and she sits up and she pulls the blanket down and it's just his decapitated head.
Mm-hmm.
And then she wakes up and starts screaming, which happens every time she wakes up.
A lot. Yeah, this woman doesn't wake up peacefully.
Yeah, and you're right. At first they're like, oh, I'm sure he just got up before you and went for a walk on the beach. It's no big deal. And she's like, but no, I saw what happened. I know exactly what happened. And yet they look around elsewhere for a while before they finally get to the elevator. And she's like, I know he died here. I saw it. Did you? Because I didn't see you see it. But
I didn't see you see it. Yeah.
but there's nobody there. And Eric,
it's kind of a cool moment.
Yeah, he pops his head up through the door, and he, like, if you're him, he pushes up the left side of the door and kind of pops his head out, and he looks around. He doesn't see anything, but the camera is shooting. I can't describe it. Anyway, the point is,
from the room he's looking into.
From the room he's looking into. When he lowers the door, you see the blood on the other side.
Yeah.
It was just that he was in the wrong position to see it. So it does appear that this isn't just in her mind.
Right.
Something really is happening, but we don't know what is happening. There was one little red herring that I kind of appreciated. The night that David dies, Brooke also wakes up early in the morning to find that Eric is gone. And she looks around and can't find him for a while, but she eventually does find him. And he's coming in from the outside. And she's like, what were you doing? He's all wet. And he says, the storm windows were banging all night. I was fixing the storm windows. And I thought that was a good red herring because I really thought, oh, he was MIA when David was killed. There's a nice lead for me to hold on to. Doesn't go anywhere, but I appreciate it in the moment.
Well, that's part of the problem with this really small cast, right? Is that everyone is basically, except for that one moment, nobody's suspect. If they're trying to make a mystery out of this, who's doing the killing, and we're trying to figure out who's doing the killing, it's either the pilot, who I think we figure out pretty early on, like that would be stupid if it was him. It's just too obvious.
Right.
Or it's just some other party that we're not aware of yet.
Right.
That's on the island doing it, which is a little unsatisfying when they're trying to make a mystery out of it.
Or it's one of them. And without spoiling it, one of the last movies that we recently did, probably the last slasher that we did, it seemed like it must be one of them, and ultimately it was.
Right.
Is that going to be the case here? Like, yeah, I understand what you're saying, because it's either got to be one of them or the pilot, and all of those just seem easy.
Yeah.
But if it's somebody or something that we've never seen, that seems cheap.
Yeah.
Don't bring in some rando in the end with some loony explanation like, oh, your dad cheated on me, or I don't know, something, whatever.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah.
You ruined my life.
You ruined my life. Person I've never met before or whatever. Oh, God. Yeah, but...
Well, they do the ridiculous thing that often happens in these movies, is there's a person missing all day long, but nobody's terribly concerned about it. In fact, Brooke is even reassuring Kay. It's nighttime, right? They're sitting by the fire, and Kay is still disturbed, and Brooke's like,
you okay? Okay, there's nothing to worry about. David's out there somewhere. I'll bet he just stumbled on something really interesting and got so involved he probably just lost his way.
So, okay, but like that means he's lost. Like you should probably be more worried about finding him.
That's so reassuring too. Like he's out there somewhere. Well, yeah, probably. Like
I mean, he's not here. Captain Obvious. Oh.
But yeah, they don't look for him all day, and then he's gone all night, and so then finally they're like, "Well, I guess we should look for him." And then
let's all split up.
Let's all split up and walk around different parts of the island for another 10 minutes.
Half an hour.
Oh
God.
my God.
Yeah, that was felt like forever.
And Kay she goes to the theater, and we see her looking around the theater for a long time. She doesn't find anything. Then we cut back to the other two who are looking around in other places for a long time. They don't find anything. Then we go back to Kay in the theater,
who seems to be investigating the theater for a second time for the first time ever. Like, what? Why is she suddenly back out in the audience, going back up on stage again?
I don't know.
The first time she went on stage, she actually went up some stairs, like almost like she was going up to the flies or something. Mm-hmm. And then when it cuts back to her, she's back in. And so I thought, what are they doing here? Is this itself a hint? Because we're still wondering deep down inside if Kay isn't somehow responsible for what's going on.
Right.
The other thing that's going through your head, and then it's later explicitly implied by Eric, is Kay in her dreams doing something?
Well, yeah, and it's also, okay, so on that second trip in there, she does find his body hanging upside down.
Yeah.
And mutilated.
Headless, yeah.
Do the others see his body, or do they even believe her? I don't even remember.
They all come running in because now it gets real for them. It kind of cuts from the David's headless body swinging there to Eric talking to Brooke about Kay's dreams. He's like loading up his flare gun and all that. Now it's like, we got to get off of here. He tells her a story about when they were kids.
Yeah.
He said that Kay, when she was a little girl, as a birthday present, got a cat from her parents or something, and they loved the cat. And then later, suddenly the cat was missing and they didn't know where the cat was. And they found the cat was what, in the freezer?
In the freezer.
And Kay had dreamed that the cat was in danger or something
Kay,
like that.
yeah, they asked Kay about it, and she said that something in her dreams did it.
Mhm.
So I think that what Eric is suggesting is that she's a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs and always has been.
He is, but then he immediately contradicts himself because Brooke goes, well, then what, Kay is then Kay, whatever. And Eric goes, no, what killed him was not a nightmare.
Right.
It was something very real. So I'm like, well, where's he even going with this then? Like, what is he even thinking?
Well, I don't remember. It's right around this part. I think Kay is pleading with them to believe her and saying, she can't go to sleep and blah, blah, blah. But she says that something has been using her to do bad things through her dreams, and it will keep doing them through her until it no longer needs her.
Yes.
So I don't really know what that means.
She explains what Eric kind of did, but she's going this direction with it, saying that somehow that, yeah. And she says, queen something. And they end up giving her some drugs to make her sleep, which absolutely upsets her.
Well, and this is just like Nightmare on Elm Street, too.
Exactly.
The parents drug when the kids are trying not to sleep and the parents think they're nuts, they always drug them.
And look, in recounting this, it sounds like a lot of stuff is happening, but we're an hour into this hour-and-a-half movie.
And there's not much left.
There's not much left, and it has taken us so long to get to this point that it just feels, I was just like, come on, let's get moving here. Like, all right, the guy's dead. Now things are finally going to move.
And they do, but they
do from here.
And things happen, but it's just paced slowly. Like the scenes are unnecessarily long.
Yeah.
Eric thinks, because he doesn't believe that it can be something from a dream, he thinks that it must be a person. He's like, well, it's just us here. The only other person we've even seen is Marsh. And Brooke's like, yeah, well, he left. And Eric's like, did he? Did we did we actually see him leave?
Well, we don't know. Yeah.
So, against Brooke's protests, he goes out to the boathouse for some reason.
Flares. He wants to find more flares.
Okay, fine. And somebody's watching him, and he does find a couple of flares, but then he's just standing out on the dock, and he bumps into a fishing pole that's just been set up on the dock or whatever. And then he turns away from it, and all of a sudden he's in a Hellraiser movie where all of these fishing hooks on a bunch of different lines simultaneously somehow hook him in the face and all over his body and drag him off to sea. That was so weird.
Yeah, it just, where did this come from? It looked like it came from above, first of all. Dropped down from the sky, hooked around him. Again, like you say, we don't see any person or figure behind this. We just see these lines and him get pulled away. And when you think about it, it makes no logical sense. The physics of this doesn't work. He gets dragged off the dock and across the beach and then finally into the water and into the darkness. Like whatever is dragging him is so far off into the distance that it's just blackness out there. We can't see it.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, I'm thinking, okay, come on. Don't ask me to believe this is an actual person doing this because it's impossible.
Right.
By the way, his death was foretold by a nick. Earlier in the movie, he was chatting with Brooke before they even left on the plane, and he was shaving his neck, and he nicked himself in the neck.
Oh, that's funny. It's funny now to know that was foreshadowing, because I thought that it was hilarious that when he nicked his neck, the music got very ominous. And I was like, oh my God, he just cut himself shaving. Like,
so sinister.
Do that every day. Calm down.
Well, to be fair, the music does a lot of heavy lifting throughout this film.
It does.
All these scenes of them just prowling around, like him prowling around this boathouse is another 10 minutes. And the music just wants you to think there's danger around the corner just a second away the whole time. And without that, you'd definitely be bored to tears.
Well, right. And then it moves pretty quickly. I mean, his wife, Brooke, is worried about him, so she goes out looking for him. So she goes down to the boathouse, too. She is looking around the boathouse, and she notices the name of the boat, written on the boat. It says Isle of something, and then she, dusts off the rest of it. Isle of Queen. Yeah. And she's like, Queen something. Like, I know that Kay had said something about Queen something earlier, but it felt like a very tenuous connection. I mean,
Yeah.
at least I guess for Brooke, it kind of validated what Kay had been saying, which she had been tempted to believe anyway. And so then she's scared, and so she looks over towards the door, and there's just a pitchfork peeking around
Floating.
the door. Just like
Pitchfork as character in this movie. Almost like puppeteered.
And then in the slowest chase scene I've ever seen, because first of all, it only spans about 10 feet.
Yeah.
But over the next 2 minutes, she runs about 6 feet away. She gets tangled up in a fishing net for a couple of good minutes. And then she takes another 30 seconds to get to the window. It's a huge window with like 3 wooden slats on it and like 6 giant panes.
Uh-huh.
And she very easily could have pulled down one of those boards and gone through any one of those panes.
Yeah.
But she feels it necessary to pull down all 3 boards, use one of the boards to bash out the entire thing. Meanwhile, this guy is right behind her. And so she
slowly.
Yes.
I think this thing could have been strapped to a turtle.
Oh
That's
my
how
God,
slow this is coming.
And she is taking so long. Like,
I was just like, girl, just go around the boat.
Right.
Just go around the boat.
Or have you never seen like Texas Chainsaw? Like, just jump through that bitch.
Jump
like
through the window.
Forget about the glass. My God. But so she gets up into the frame of the window, and then, she gets a startled look on her face, and you see the tines of the pitchfork come through.
Oh, this was fantastic.
It
though.
looked really good.
It did. Like, you see, it wasn't like cut and there are tines in her. You saw the tines come through her chest and then retreat back in. Only the Prowler has a better pitchforking scene than this one. This is like number 2 in my book. And the only thing that makes the Prowler better is the pitchfork actually went into like a topless, like there was no clothing or anything obscuring the penetration. God, it sounds so sexual when I say it. And so I was like, okay, good. That was really impressive for this film. I was not expecting to see an effect that good.
Well, and I would say the effects are pretty good throughout.
They're not bad.
Yeah. I mean, there was the one that bothered me the most was when the severed head was crying blood, and you could clearly tell where the duct was, and it was not near enough to his eye. Right.
Right.
But yeah, so that all happens at night. Kay wakes up in the morning. She goes down near the boathouse, sees Eric's body floating in the water, immediately then almost trips over Brooke's body on the beach.
It's so funny because it's that classic final girl discovers all the bodies at once.
Yeah, but there's only
have 2 bodies to discover.
I know. So she runs back to the house and she shutters all the windows and she barricades all the doors. And this was another scene. I was like, I don't need to see her move every piece of furniture to barricade every door. I get it.
She closed every window. We did not need to see this happen every step of the way.
Get it. And
at this point, I just felt they were really pressing for time. They were really just trying to stretch out the time.
And she's trying to stay awake, and the first thing she does to try to stay awake is read what sounds like one of the most boring books I've like that would put me to sleep. Then
she's got a cup of coffee.
She makes herself some coffee. She's smoking cigarettes. Eventually, she burns herself with the cigarette, but it almost appears like the ecstasy of the burn puts her to sleep because
you're right.
Then she's asleep, and the generator goes out, and there's something trying to come in and rattling the door and stuff, and she grabs a big knife, and at this point, she's like peering through slats, and it's entirely reminiscent of the opening scene.
Yes.
It's like she's watching through a slatted door, and the lights are, making slats across her face.
And that clock is ticking.
The clock is
pendulum's
ticking.
Going.
Right.
And she closes her eyes, and there's a banging window that wakes her up. And at this point, I'm like, okay, is she dreaming now? Has she fallen asleep?
Well,
I'm thinking of that whole Freddy thing, I'm thinking, did she actually fall asleep and they're faking us out here?
Yeah, I think that could have been the moment that she fell asleep, or it could have been right after she burned herself. I don't even know that it necessarily matters, but at some point, presumably she did. And again, I don't know if the suggestion is that she is asleep and dreaming, or just the fact that she went to sleep released the beast. Like, I don't know what that means.
I'm not sure either.
She moves to in front of the fridge. She's used the refrigerator to block a door. And then all of a sudden the refrigerator starts getting shoved from the other side, and somebody or something reaches over the top and she stabs it in the hand, and it sure sounds like a dude to me. Like it goes, ow. Like I'm like, if that's a monster, that's a pretty lame sound for a monster.
Well, it would also be the first time we've ever seen a limb or anything. I mean, even when the pitchfork was coming after that girl, we didn't see what was holding the pitchfork. We didn't even see hands around it.
No.
It just looks like a floating pitchfork in a way. So this would be the first time that we've ever seen anything physical. And so immediately I was suspect. I was like, well, that's not it. That's probably the pilot.
Well, I didn't know, because she runs and she like trips on the staircase, and whatever it is that's pursuing her gets through and runs towards her, and we kind of vaguely see it in silhouette, and she shoots it with a flare, and when the flare lights up, we see that it's a man. Now, it was the pilot, right? There's nobody else it could have been.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell.
It was. We see a couple close-up shots on his face as the fire goes.
I just didn't recognize. I didn't know if it was the same guy. I assumed so. But because she shot him with a flare, he falls over and the whole house catches on fire. So she runs up the stairs and is like running through an attic or something, and she gets to a door or a window, and it bursts open, and there's a giant, scary monster that we've never seen before.
Well, we saw it in the beginning.
Kind of.
Not in this detail, but yeah, it's a callback to that original, the thing that opened up over the credits, for sure.
For sure. And it's, we don't see it in its entirety. It's kind of from midsection up, and we definitely see its face, and it's got giant, long, pointed teeth, and it's all kind of insect-like maybe, and
it looks pretty good.
Slimy and gross. It looks fine. I think it was smart not to show it to us for very long.
Right.
But anyway, she screams, and it cuts to a shot of the house outside, and it's just her screaming and screaming and screaming. And then you hear somebody say, Kay, wake up, wake up. A little girl with red hair, obviously Kay, wakes up, and her mother and father are standing over her and say, oh no, did you have a bad dream again? Hold on, let us get your brother in here. We want him to be here for this. And again, it's very similar to that shot from the beginning where she's laying in bed and the other people who are standing above her are shot almost from her perspective.
Yeah.
So we're looking up at them, and the brother, presumably Eric, comes in. I mean, I think somebody even says his name, so we know it's him.
Yeah.
And the dad says, happy birthday, or Merry Christmas or something, and pulls out this kitten from behind his back and goes to hand it to her, and it cuts back to the little girl who just looks horrified, like, oh no!
Not again.
Not again.
Freeze frame.
Freeze
credits.
Frame. Right. So I don't know what to make of it. Like, is this whole thing, was the whole movie just a recurring nightmare of a young girl? Or is this some sort of loop that this woman is in? And is it a supernatural loop, a psychological loop? Like,
right.
I don't really get it, but I don't so much mind the ambiguity. I thought that the end was actually kind of clever. I think that I like it more than if it had just
ended with her in the house.
See the monster, hear the screaming from outside, see the house from the outside, credits. That would have been okay. This, I think, throws a little spin on it, and because I don't find the movie to be all that great anyway, tacking this little spin on it at least gives it a little bit more intrigue.
Elevates it a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does elevate it a little bit, and I agree with you there. And once again, I got to go back to the inspiration. Somebody had to be, maybe Robert Shea was watching this when he made, Wes Craven tack that little dream ending onto the first Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh, maybe.
The parallels are just so close here. You've got this supposed dream demon, I guess. What else has killed these people? If this all actually happened, these people really did die, and there's no explanation as to who it could have been except for her dreams and this demon that apparently manifests at the end. So if we take it all literally, then yeah, her dream demon came out and and murdered them all, just like she said, and just as she apparently experienced to some extent when she was a kid. But I don't think it's quite that simple. It's purposely left ambiguous, and I think it's probably a stronger movie for it, because if this ended up being more straightforward, it'd be even less remarkable. But, I mean, I think it's well shot. The cinematography is quite good. The lighting is quite good. The music is good. The acting is fine. I like some of the things that they've done with it, with the story and this ambiguity and this, again, almost like Curtains and some of these other movies that just seem to be aspiring to more than just horror, but they're trying to add a lot of psychological intrigue and drama and heady stuff. It just doesn't work as well as some of those other movies do.
Yeah, I agree. And the pacing is slow. You said the acting is good, and I think that's fair.
It's not terrible.
No, my only criticism would be that the actress, I've read a lot of praise about her performance.
Which one?
Not Brooke. Kay, the main girl. I just
kind of one note.
One note. That's what I was gonna say. Like, yeah, I mean, she plays that cuckoo well, but it's one note.
Yeah.
There's no levels to it, and I don't even particularly have empathy for her because she's such a weirdo. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
She's not humanized enough, I guess, as a character. She's just the weirdo sister who, I don't know, is around. But
it's interesting, right, how you can have a role like this, which is pretty one note, and it's really written that way. She's just got to be loopy and upset by her dreams the whole time, and there's really nowhere else to go. Yet you can have a similar type character in a movie like David Cronenberg's The Brood, which we did.
Yeah.
Who you could also argue, but somehow that performance just came across as far more real. This troubled woman felt like she had layers to her, even though she was honestly really just acting in the same place the whole movie, right? Sitting in a bed, kind of in the same state the whole time. Somehow that performance was way better.
Well, right.
And
I mean, basically, if we're drawing the comparison, Kay is the equivalent of Nancy, and Nancy is a very human character.
Right.
She kind of gets to a point where she's exhausted and a little unclear, never to this extent. But even, what was that movie that we watched? We compared it to Nightmare on Elm Street 3. It was about a girl in a hospital, and it had the girl from Nightmare on Elm Street 3. That reminds me of this, except
Bad Dreams.
Bad Dreams, right. And she, the main character, she would have moments of wackiness where people thought she was being weird, but she also had moments of clarity and normalcy. And I connected more with her as a character than I do with Kay. But, that's a minor thing. I would say overall, as you said before, if you are kind of like us and like to be the guy in the room who's seen everything and people can ask you about a movie and, you've got the knowledge right on the tip of your tongue, which is something that I take pride in. Then,
it's kind of our job, isn't it?
Well, I mean, it's kind of our shtick, I would say, is a better way of putting it.
Yeah, if only this were our job, right?
But if you're that type of person, if you're an aficionado, it's definitely worth seeing. If you're just looking for a fun slasher to watch with your friends at a sleepover or at a party, there are way more fun ones.
Yeah.
Way, way, way more fun ones.
This is almost like watching a soap opera with some horror elements to it. It's kind of slow and dramatic. Slow.
Well, and I would say it almost feels even more like a stage play in some way in the pacing of it. But I don't know. That may be kind of a stretch. Anyway, it's not great. I wouldn't steer anybody away from it, but I certainly don't need to see it again. And you could miss it and probably be okay.
I agree. I totally agree. Well, thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed it, please share it with a friend. You can find us at chainsawhorror.com, where you can send us messages either by voice or by text. You know the drill. We've got Facebook and Instagram channels out there. Please send us your requests. And we're coming up into the summer, so send us some good summer horror movies that we ought to do. Especially, like, for me anyway. I want to see some of these long-lost films and figure out if they're lost gems or if they're forgotten for a reason. If you know of any of these kind of movies as well, please send them our way. We also have a Patreon, patreon.com/chainsawpodcast, where you can vote on our requests as they come in. Also, a book club going on back there, the unedited versions of our phone calls that produce these episodes, direct access to us, some mini-sodes up there, lots of goodies. $5 a month gets you access to all that, and our undying gratitude. Until next time, I'm Todd
And I'm Craig.
with Two Guys and a Chainsaw.